Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deep today into
Oh.
how we can prevent those little disagreements from becoming like huge blowups.
Yeah, those conflicts that just seem to spiral out of control.
Exactly. And we've got some fascinating source material to guide us. It actually uses examples from history and even a story from the Bible to understand how we can like approach disagreements in a way that encourages peace.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting how the source kind of connects these small-scale disagreements with like massive historical conflicts.
Oh, right. Like what kind of conflicts are we talking about here?
Well, the source specifically points to the two world wars as like prime examples, where like ignoring or mishandling these smaller issues that maybe seemed insignificant at the time, they can snowball into these devastating consequences that affect millions.
Wow, that's a pretty powerful image. I mean, I never really thought about it like that, but you're right. Those small things can really build up. It's a good reminder to be mindful of even those like everyday disagreements, because yeah, if you let them fester, who knows what could happen.
Absolutely. And the source then kind of shifts gears and dives into this biblical story about a near conflict between different tribes in Israel.
Okay, so what happened with these tribes?
So there were these tribes, Gad, Reuben, and Manasseh. They decided to build this altar, and the other tribes, they saw this altar and they just immediately, they thought it was a sign of rebellion against God, like they were about to go to war.
Oh, wow. So they saw it as a direct threat, but instead of just jumping straight into battle, they actually decided to talk it out.
Right, and that's a really key point here. This communication wasn't just like a casual chat. They genuinely listened to each other, tried to understand the other side's perspective. And you know what? The tribes that bit the altar, they were able to explain that, hey, their intentions weren't to rebel at all. They were trying to stay connected to their faith in their own way.
So it was just a big misunderstanding that could have turned really ugly.
Yeah, exactly. They managed to clear the air and actually reaffirmed their shared commitment to God.
See, that's what's so important about open communication. I mean, it sounds pretty simple, right? But it's about empathy. It's about stepping outside of your own perspective and really trying to see where the other person's coming from.
Absolutely. And the source points out that both sides in the story, they were truly devoted to God, and that this shared faith, it actually played a huge role in their willingness to listen to each other and ultimately find that common ground.
Right. Because they had that higher purpose that united them.
Yeah.
And that's a really powerful takeaway for us today. I mean, so much of the conflict we see, it comes from this us versus them mentality.
Yeah, like we forget that we might actually share some core values with those we disagree with. So if we could just like tap into that shared commitment to something bigger than ourselves, whether it's faith or a common goal, whatever it might be, it gives us this foundation for understanding.
It's like finding that bridge, right? The bridge that can help us cross over those divides and start to build peace. So how do we like practically apply all of this to our own lives? Because I mean, the world today, it's full of conflict, right?
Well, the source suggests that by following the example of these tribes, like their commitment to dialogue, their humility, their willingness to listen, it's not always easy, but by following their example, we can actually become peacemakers in
Right.
in our own circles, in
Yeah.
in the world around us.
It's a challenging message for sure. But it's about choosing understanding over aggression,
Right.
being willing to listen even when it's hard, even when we might disagree.
And the source even goes so far as to say sometimes it means experiencing a little bit of personal discomfort, maybe even some hurt, rather than choosing to escalate the conflict. It's about taking a step back and saying, okay, what's more important here? Winning the argument or preserving the relationship or working towards a peaceful solution.
And that's the real question for all of us, isn't it? I mean, how can we take these lessons of dialogue and humility
Hmm.
and actually apply them to our daily lives? Because I mean, think about it, whether it's disagreements with family or friends or even those like broader societal conflicts, there's always an opportunity to choose understanding, to choose peace. So I'm going to leave you with this question to think about. How can you be a peacemaker in your own life?
It's a great question and one that's worth pondering.
It's deep dives for sure.
Absolutely.